Chapter number 6. Yesh l'kasha kol zeh, and all of this can be connected gam im drush kvei kedush admin nishmasedin, also with the Maamar and the teaching of the Rebbe Rashab. Al pasuk min hamitzar karasi ka anoni barmechav ka. We say this pasuk actually every Rosh Chodesh in the Hallel min hamitzar. But this pasuk also is associated with the 3 weeks, which are weeks of constraints. The 3 weeks starting the 17th of Tammuz until the 9th of Av. The 17th of Tammuz when they breached the walls of Jerusalem, and the 9th of Av when they destroyed the first temple and the second holy temple. So these 3 weeks are considered to be min hametzar, times of constraints and challenges and hardships. It says the psalmist David Melech, Meitzar karasika, when you call out, I call out God min hametzar, from my constraints, from my hardships, from my difficulties, from my challenges, from my desperation, from my disappointments. I call out karasika, I call out God. It's interesting, it doesn't say karasi Adnai. It doesn't say karasi Hashem. It says karasi Yud Kei, the first 2 letters of God's name. You're calling out the first 2 letters of God's name, implying a higher level of godliness. Not the level of godliness which is associated with the physical world, which is Vav Kei, but rather min hametzar karasi ka, I'm calling out the Yud Kei, the first 2 levels of God's name. Yud representing the level of Chachma, and Hey representing the level of Bina. Similarly, Yud Kei representing Hanestoris, the concealed part of God, rather than the revealed part of God. Now, by calling out to the deeper level of godliness, because of my constraints, I go to a deeper level of godliness. Anani, Barmechav Ka, you answer me in an expansive way. Because I call out from my constraints, God, you answer me by mechav. You answer me in a big, wide way, in a big way, an expansive way. From Yud Kei, also from the level of Yud and Hey, the first 2 letters of God's name. What is the meaning of this? Tachlis hametzar, says the Rebbe, based on a Maamar of the Rebbe Rashab, the objective of all meitzah, the objective of all challenges and hardships and constraints, einoi elo kidei shetia kriya min hameitzar, is only so that a person should call out to God from that place of darkness, from that place of disappointment, from that place of hardship, from that place of constraint. Ukriya zu. Because you are calling God from such a dark place, from such a foreign place, this reaches the highest annals of heaven. This brings the prayers to the widest places, to the true expansive place, which is infinite. And similarly, this concept is also similar to a teaching in Torah of the Tzemach Tzedek pertaining to Shir Hashirim. B'tchilasoi ala pasuk Shir Hashirim asher l'shloimoi, which is the pasuk of Shir Hashirim, the song of songs that is to Shlomo HaMelech. So here we see, on one hand, we are now entering into the 3 weeks, which is a time of constraints. Yet at the same time, we are also connecting this with Shir Hashirim, which is the Song of Songs. That is the opening verse in the Song of Songs, the song of all songs that is to Shlomo HaMelech. What does it mean, Shirim? Shirim lashon rabim koi albino malchus. It says the song of all songs. It doesn't say this is the song of King Solomon. Rather, it says Shir Hashirim, the song of all songs, implying a plurality. There are 2 songs. Koi albino malchus, alluding to the 2 levels of Bina and Malchus. Bina is the second of the 10 attributes of the 10 sfirot, which Bina means understanding, and then the 10th, the final of the 10 sfirot, that is Malchus, kingship. So these two levels, which is the level of Malchus and Bina, allude to the two levels of Min HaMeitzar, Karasi Ka, Anoni Bar Merchav Ka. Call out to God from the constraints. Constraints is Malchus. And Bina, the level of understanding, is understood, represents expansiveness. As we know, Bina represents Recheves Hanor, the wideness of the river, in contrast to a stream, which is very narrow. The first song, which is the song of Malchus, represents the level of Meitzar, which is constraints. As we know, Malchus represents the concept of going down into death, going down into challenges, going down into hardships, going down into the tunnels. In contrast to the song of Bina, this is the song of Recheves Hanor. This is the song of wideness and expansiveness. At the Tachas Hirchavus, until we reach the ultimate of expansiveness, which is unlimited, which is Merchav Yud Kei, representing the wideness of the Yud and the Hey of God's name. Which we said earlier, Yud and Kei allude to Chachma and Bina, alluding to again Recheves Hanor, the wideness of Bina. And this is the meaning of Shir HaShirim, the song of Shlomo Melech, the song of all songs. It alludes to the fact that even when a person is in a state of constraints, even when a person is in a state of darkness, the person should also sing, because singing is a form of prayer. And when singing out to God and calling out to God in that time of challenge and that time of hardship, this will bring a person to the level of tremendous expansiveness, that God will hear our prayers. He will surely hear our prayers and bring us about the true level of healing and blessing. So Malchus alludes to Meitzar, Bina, and Merchav. So these are the two songs. The song a person sings in a time of darkness also brings him to the song of Bina, of Merchav, the song of expansiveness. And that is the same meaning of the verse, I call out to God during the 3 weeks. I call out to God during a time of constraints. I call out to God during a time of challenge. Don't give up at that time. Many times when a person goes through hardship and challenge, you want to forget about God. On the contrary, turn around and call out to God, and then God will answer us, not only to pull us out of the constraints, but you will see tremendous merchav, tremendous expansiveness. As you know, this is the idea of a shofar. The idea of a shofar is exactly this point. Why do we use a shofar? On one hand, the part that you blow into is called meitzar, is a very small, narrow hole, and yet the voice comes out from a wide part. The top of the shofar is wide, alluding to expansiveness. In other words, God didn't say we should blow out through a flute. He didn't say blow out through a pipe. But the call of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah is primarily a shofar, alluding to a person who's in a place of meitzar, a place of a hardship and constraints. Then you call out at that moment, you'll have merchav, you'll have this expansiveness. Maybe the will of God. Now the Rebbe is ending with a prayer. And Yehiratzon, as we explained, whenever it says Yehiratzon, may be the will of God, it means that we create a new Ratzon Chadash, we create a new will, even though it was not officially, originally, in the cards, in the plans, in the blueprint, that there should be the will of God. But Yehiratzon is a prayer, God, create a new will, a new reality. It should be fulfilled in us in this concept, that when I call out to you in a place of merza, when I call out to you in a place of hardship, Anani, please answer me, but not only to pull me out from the Meitzar, but Minan Merchav, it should be a place of expansiveness. Shemiyad b'smichas Chodesh Tammuz hakelel as kol yimei Chodesh, and therefore in a time when we are in the month of Chodesh Tammuz, and especially the first day of Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, which has within it the entire month, is batlu kol yonim abiltu tzuyim the ben hamitzarim, being that in the month of Tammuz we have the 17th of Tammuz, which is starting the 3 weeks of mitzarim, of constraints, starting the 3 weeks when the enemy breached the walls of Jerusalem. So this time should be totally nullified and removed. Psak Rambam, and it shall be fulfilled finally the psak, the halacha of the Rambam, and the verdict of the Rambam. That not only will these 3 weeks be removed, but rather it's going to be transformed. It's going to be the greatest days of the year, the greatest holidays. And that's the meaning. From the constraints, we go to the expansiveness. It's going to be transformed to the greatest. Yom Tovim, will be days of joy and happiness and rejoicing. Shenemar koyom ar Hashem. And it says in the pasuk of Zechariah Navi, I want to just quote at this moment the entire pasuk. The entire pasuk of Zechariah is chapter 8, pasuk number 19. It says over there, Koyam ar Hashem. So says the Lord of hosts. The fast day of the 4th month, which is the month of Tammuz, which is the 17th of Tammuz. And the fast, the Tzoyim HaChamishi, and the fast of the 5th month, which is the 9th of Av. The Tzoyim HaShavi, and the fast of the 7th month, which is Ashara B'Tev, which is Tzoyim Gedalia, which is the 3rd day of Tishrei. The fast of Gedalia, the Tzoyim HaSidi, and the fast day of Asara B'Tevis, the 10th month. All these fasts yield the Beis Yehuda l'Sasam Simcha l'Moedim Tovim, says Zechariah Navi, shall be transformed to days of holiday. It doesn't say it should be removed, but rather it should be transformed to days of holiday. And it goes on to say, V'emes v'ashalom ehavu. But you must love honesty and integrity. And this is the point that we're concluding over here. Umoisev v'maiti gam sima pasuk v'emes v'ashalom ehavu. Hainu, which means that we must be part of the result. We must be part of this transformation by the fact that we bring shalom into our life. We bring peace into our life. In other words, that we have to bring about the idea of unity amongst Jews. But you must love honesty and integrity. So we have to cause this to happen. We have to bring peace into our home. And this idea, says the Rebbe, was also implemented and inspired and accomplished on the 12th of Tammuz when the previous Rebbe came out of Golus. He was informed on the 12th of Tammuz he's going to be released from Kastrama, from prison, from Golus, from exile. He came out of prison on Gimel Tammuz. And then he went to exile and came out of exile on the 13th of Tammuz. And these 2 days, Yud Beis, Gimel Tammuz, are Yom Tiv by Chassidim and by the entire world. He writes in his letter, this is a day, says the Rebbe, not only was I redeemed, but this is a day of redemption for Gans Klal Yisrael, all Israel. Even a Jew who doesn't go to synagogue, a Jew who only knows that he's called Jewish. If you ask him, are you Jewish? He says, yeah. What does it mean? I don't know. But he knows he's a Jew. It's a nickname for him. even that Jew came out of Golos on this day. Shegam behem pala gulazu. This day had an implication, and it inspired not only religious people but also someone who is what we call chas v'shalom, far away from Judaism. Even that person, that person is also redeemed today on the 12th and 13th of Tammuz. Says the previous Rebbe in his letter, it's a day that every Jew is redeemed. On one hand, a Jew who is only by nickname a Jew. On the other hand, a Jew who loves Torah and follows mitzvahs. I knew, in other words, a person can argue, I'm already a leimut Torah. I study Torah. I'm a Talmud Torah, a Talmud Chacham. And I'm a person who's Mishabis and Torah mitzvahs. I follow Torah mitzvahs. So what do I need this for? Why do you have to celebrate this day if you basically Gimel Tammuz? And the answer is that even a person who studies Torah, even a person who's following Torah, has his limitations and has her limitations, how much they know and how much they're able to do, because they have their own personal challenges. Every person has their challenges and has their limitations. And therefore, this is a day that a person is able to go beyond their limitations. And this is a day of true love, true redemption from every single person. To go min ha-merchav, to go min ha-meitzar el ha-merchav, to go from places of constraints to a place of true expansiveness. Because even in holiness there is limitations, and therefore to go beyond these limitations, and therefore the idea of your Beis Gimel Tammuz is really a day of redemption for the entire world. That this should affect in the entire world to remove all the obstacles and all the barriers. And furthermore, to bring upon the nations of the world the fear of God. To know that there is one God, and therefore to protect Am Yisrael and to protect the Jewish people, and all those enemies should be nullified like the dust of the earth. And this shall all be fulfilled. And therefore, all of us should not have to wait any longer, but the Geula, the redemption, should be mamish now, immediately, to be redeemed, as we know. And the Rebbe mentioned many times, Yeshua Hashem Keravayin, that the redemption of God comes about like the blink of an eye. Doesn't have to take time. And being that we see so many summoning, we see so many signs in the world, so many amazing things are happening. We know that Mashiach is mamish around the corner. Mashiach is already on the threshold, he's already in the door. All we got to do is pull him in. But this can happen with the blink of an eye. And to end with one final story, as I mentioned the story many times in the past, but it's connected very much with this idea of that we transform the meitzah, we transform this constraint into merchav, into expansiveness. That my grandfather, Rabbi Jacob J. Hechel, blessed memory, whose yahrzeit, whose passing is the 15th of Av, coming up next month. He was once at the Lag BaOmer parade. As you know, that he was the MC of the Lag BaOmer parade and the organizer of the Lag BaOmer parade. And he sent into the Rebbe on Thursday evening the itinerary of the upcoming parade. At that time, there were many challenges in the organization, starting with a lack of funds and many other challenges. And he wrote to the Rebbe that things are very hard over here at this time. This was a side note that he wrote at the bottom of the page of the itinerary. The Rebbe did not respond Thursday night or Friday. He came out to the rally on Sunday. He came out to the big parade on Sunday. It was a tremendous success. And after my grandfather introduced the Rebbe, and then he would translate the Rebbe's talks that the Rebbe would give. Generally, it was 3 talks. And my grandfather would translate each talk. And then the parade would begin. And after the parade, when all the floats and all the children marched by the Rebbe, my grandfather turned to the Rebbe and said, "Is the Rebbe zufrieden? Is the Rebbe happy with the parade?" And the Rebbe responded to my grandfather, "Zeir, I am very happy with the parade. And then the Rebbe turned to my grandfather and said, was ist mit deiner Stimmung, and what is with your mood? So my grandfather told the Rebbe mir rish geschleppt. The Rebbe pulled me out of the situation. And the Rebbe responded, Ufkohibim. I didn't pull you out. I elevated you. It's a big difference. It's been a meitzar el merchav. If I rish geschleppt, if I still be pulled you out of the mud, okay, I'm leaving now the meitzar. I'm leaving the constraints. But the constraints is still a reality. It's just that you pull me out of the constraints. However, ufkoib means I elevated you to a new place. It means that you went from this low place now to a place of expansiveness, was transformed. And this is the objective of the Maamar. That any time a person has a hardship, and any time a person goes through a difficulty or a challenge, you have to know that the purpose of the challenge was to bring us to a new place, a higher place. To go back to the same place you were before the challenge is a mistake. This was not the purpose of going through the challenge. On the contrary, when you're in the challenge, when I'm to sing Shir Hashirim, to sing the song, and from there to go to Shir Hashirim, to the song of all songs, the ultimate song. As you know, Mashiach is going to come very soon, and he's going to introduce a 10th song. There were 9 songs that were sung up until now, and then Mashiach will come, there'll be a 10th song. And according to some opinions, already the 10th song is sung before the coming of Mashiach. So ultimately, any way you look at it, Shir Hashirim, to sing songs, and that people have the custom to learn and to read Shir Hashirim every Friday evening. And the Rebbe once said, you don't even have to wait till Friday evening, but it's something we should do all the time, to constantly sing to Hashem and thank Hashem for all the kindnesses. And from this, we will see the ultimate song, the coming of Mashiach, from Heda B'Yameinu, Amen.